Just felt like darkness surrounded by questions. Surrounded by more darkness. Wrapped in bacon. Hi, I'm Big Papa Grum from the Board of Doom, and I'm going to recap the Monday Night Raw from April 24th, 2017. Alright, show opened with an episode of the highlight reel, starring Chris Jericho, which, you know, Jericho is being his usual charming self. He's playing the face character right now, so he's, you know, the crowd's his friends, and he's playing that angle right now. Even name dropped Southpaw Wrestling, which was kind of funny. And then The Miz comes out and turns it into the highlight reel, and then Ambrose comes out and turns it into Ambrose Asylum, and it was just silliness. It was funny at times, then it went on too long, and Ambrose mercifully just ended it with a dirty deed. That, of course, set up a tag match for later on that night. Miz had to find a partner against Y2J and Dean Ambrose. Probably the only really amusing part of that entire segment was the gift that Ambrose gave Jericho, which was a dress jacket with Christmas lights on it to replace the one that he destroyed when they were feuding. So, you know, at least something amusing came out of it. Then you had, in trying to build towards their title match on Sunday, the Matt Hardy took on Sheamus in a one-on-one match. Cesaro took on Jeff Hardy and lost last week. Decent match, went back and forth. It was kind of neat. The ending, of course, you were looking for them to build towards something, and they might, but it's the go-home edition, so I figure if they were going to have anything pay off outside, before the match, they would have there. But Sheamus was distracted by the shenanigans going on with Jeff Hardy outside the ring and Cesaro yelling at him. Matt Hardy scored a cheap win off of him, and then Sheamus did the whole shake my hand thing, even though Cesaro was about ready to beat the shit out of Jeff. But they shook hands and everything was fine, which I'm telling you, either we're going to have something is going to break Matt, or one of the teams is going to turn heel, probably on Sunday. Then you had another tag match, this one between TJ Parker and Neville against Austin Aries and Jack Gallagher. It was the cruiserweights. They put on a good show. You're still not making Perkins look like a credible heel. He just kind of looks like a lackey. It's like you don't want him to look like Robin to Neville's Batman, even though that's the role he's kind of playing. You kind of want him more Nightwing than Robin. But either way, it didn't really sell me on him being a heel. Austin Aries looked good. Jack Gallagher, actually everybody looked good in the match, but and you're still that storyline with him with Perkins turning heel and kind of feuding a little bit with Jack Gallagher, obviously playing second fiddle to the championship feud between Neville and Aries, and that story got told more. All right, then you had the dumpster match between Kalisto and Braun Strowman. Strowman came out, did his usual Braun Strowman promos. I mean, one thing Braun Strowman does well is a Braun Strowman promo. Then Kalisto was being, hyped up backstage by Angle, and Kalisto actually gave a little promo, and it's probably the best promo he's given in a couple of years. And actually, come to think, it was probably the only promo he's given in a couple of years. The match was longer than it should have been. The match should have been about 30 seconds long. They stretched it out to a couple of minutes. And with apron shenanigans, Kalisto beat Strowman. Strowman was outside the apron, standing on the apron outside the ring. Kalisto kind of drop kicked him in the knees, and he fell standing into the dumpster. Got mad, killed Kalisto, threw him in a dumpster, and then pushed him 2 feet off the top of the ramp in the dumpster. They carted him off in an ambulance, which mercifully Strowman didn't eat. I mean, it was designed to make Strowman look good. It just made Kalisto look stupid. Then you had Bray Wyatt do one of his pre-taped promos where he tried to sell you on the House of Horrors match. Apparently, what we're getting, even though nobody really knows for sure, is that it's supposed to start in the House of Horrors, and then they're supposed to work their way back to the ring for the end of the match. And it's obvious. It seems it's not going to be for the championship either. So Bray is just losing out left and right. It was a good Bray promo because Bray does what Bray does. He gives good promos. But even the great Bray Wyatt cannot sell me on that match being anything short of a dumpster fire, which is probably what Braun Strowman should have done in his match. And after all the tag matches and promos and dumpsters, WWE figured everybody was going to need a bathroom break, so you got Dana Brooke versus Alicia Fox. Match was terrible. They have no chemistry. Dana Brooke is not there yet. Although, I mean, getting her a chance to actually get some experience and wrestle on TV, that's fine. I'm cool with that. If she shows improvement, then we'll look back on this like, hey, remember so-and-so was terrible, now they're better. As opposed to Eva Marie, which is terrible, now terrible, still terrible, always terrible. I just hope that Dana Brooke doesn't do that, because the Raw women's division could use somebody. It was nice to see Alicia Fox getting back on Raw as opposed to 205 Live, but really wasn't the best exhibition for either one of them. And then Emma came out and was kind of like, yeah, hey, and no, it's just no. Then you had the tag match between Samoa Joe and the Club versus Enzo and Cass and Seth Rollins. And after the Enzo and Cass came out and did their shtick, the Club and Samoa Joe showed up from the crowd and beat up Enzo and Cass, mostly Enzo. So automatically, I'm really gunning for Samoa Joe and the Club to get championship pushes now, because once you take out that talentless Muppet, I'm all for it, especially when you replace him with Finn Balor, which is what Kurt Angle did. The match was solid. It was, obviously Balor's going to have chemistry with everybody on the other side, and Seth Rollins debuted on TV anyways, his new finisher, which the internet apparently is screaming about he stole from Kenny Omega, but considering, everybody steals everything from everyone, no big deal. I don't like it as a finisher. I think that should be like, that's a signature move. That's not a finisher, but they took the curb stomp away from him, and I'm sure he doesn't want to do the pedigree anymore. In fact, he on camera, he made the show to, go for the pedigree and then change his mind and then do the kick, the knee to the face thing. Yeah. Actually, I was cool with the match up until the finisher. And I was like, oh, come on. Do the small package driver. The one move you haven't hurt someone with was the curb stomp. They take that away from you, and you're left with nothing. Just ask John Cena what a knee to the face from Seth Rollins can do. Then he had Alexa Bliss come out, do a promo, since she's wrestling for the championship this weekend. Bayley came out, and this unfortunately showed just how weak on the mic Bayley still is. Alexa Bliss is constantly improving. Even with scripted material, she makes it sound like, she goes on a little too long with some of her like little repeats herself too much, but aside from that, Alexa Bliss improving, doesn't repeat herself as much as she did this time last year or this time 6 months ago. Sasha Banks came out, and she was doing her terrible mic work as usual, and then turned into a match between Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks. Alexa took the count-out loss, basically saying, hey, you know what? I got a championship match on Sunday. Nah, I don't need this. So then Bayley tried to grab her and send her down to the ring. Alexa Bliss escaped, ran back. Bayley turned around and was like, I don't know where she went. And then she got attacked from behind, got beat up, and then as Sasha was coming to the rescue, Alexa Bliss took off. I love Alexa Bliss doing the cowardly when necessary heel. She's not really coming across like a cowardly heel so much as a sneaky heel. It's a fine line between just being a flat-out coward and just being calculating. So that's how Bliss is coming across to me right now. And the best part of that is that this Sunday, you're probably going to have a real solid match between Bayley and Alexa Bliss, where hopefully Bayley doesn't use a microphone. That brings us to the the jobber to the stars. Kurt Hawkins came out, issued his open challenge. I really wanted Shelton Benjamin. I know it was a pipe dream. I know it wasn't going to happen, but I was just like, because I knew what the alternative was, and it was Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews is good in the ring. We talked about it in one of the other videos how he's basically a charisma-less, waste of space when he's on TV, and that's WWE's fault. I don't really think that Apollo Crews, the person, has no charisma. It's just that he hasn't connected with fans, because he was connected with fans in NXT, But when they brought him up to the main roster before he was ready, and the main roster fans, they're a little less forgiving. And he's basically been greeted with, "Oh, he's a good guy." Of course he beat Kurt Hawkins, because that was the other thing. I was like, oh, please let Kurt Hawkins win. But no. And then Titus O'Neil came out because they're doing that whole Titus brand thing between him and Cruz that I did not cover last week because I just didn't care. I care less this week. But it was funny because I think it was somebody had tweeted a picture of Apollo Crews when Titus O'Neil was raising hands like, hey, look, it's the only photographic evidence we have that Apollo Crews doesn't smile. Thought it was funny. Pretty much sums up his entire main roster existence. Smile, win occasionally. Then he had the main event, which was Dean Ambrose and Chris Jericho versus The Miz, and he tried to introduce a partner, said he had some theatrics. I, again, was like, ooh, Shelton Benjamin. No. So, it ended up having to be a handicap match. Miz tried to get out of it. Kurt Angle said. So, for most of the match, Miz was basically, fending off the two guys. Like, he was holding his own against being outnumbered. And then the match ended in a no contest. Match moved up the ramp a bit. Well, I think Miz was trying to run or something. I don't know. I think I blinked. And then the lights went off. Bray Wyatt shows up and beats up Dean Ambrose. And then the action goes back into the ring, and he gives his Sister Abigail to Dean Ambrose up into the sign, the glowy sign up by the announce table. And then he gave Y2J a Sister Abigail in the ring, and then the Miz was trying to celebrate with him, and he got a Sister Abigail too. I like the fact that they made Bray Wyatt look, strong going into his match against Orton, especially coming off of the Hocus Pocus stuff. I don't mind the lights going out and coming back on. It's like, hey, it's a crazy dude with dreadlocks. But any of the other stuff, like, the whole Sister Abigail power thing was just wearing way too thin. I kind of liked it being an abstract thing. They made it more real, and therefore they took what made it narratively interesting, they took that away. And then, of course, the WrestleMania match where it's like, oh, hey, look, I've got the remote for the projector in my pocket. And no, that didn't work for me either. So this worked for me. The match overall was okay. It really wasn't about the match. It was about the payoff. And Bray just coming out and just laying waste to everybody. It's like, I'm just here to beat everyone up. And I like that version of Bray. He didn't really say much. He did his whole follow the buzzards thing, and that was about it. There was your recap of the April 24th Monday Night Raw. It's been pointed out all over the internet, and I'm just going to reiterate. For a go-home edition, it was dull. I mean, there was some fun stuff, but it didn't feel anything big. You didn't see Roman Reigns. I know Roman Reigns is coming off of a kayfabe injury and plus a real-life family tragedy. But it was still, just didn't feel like a go-home episode. Just real quick, want to give a shout-out to Luke. Happy birthday. I've been Big Papa Grump from the Board of Doom, and I'll see you next time.